Just like, whatever people want of me, I will become. In that case, you have no internal compass pointing you towards art. You have a compass that's just saying, oh, what do you want me to do? What do you like? Okay, I'll do that. And then guess what? Anyone can do that, you loser. Anybody can just follow the whims of the market. You're just a replaceable cog in the machine. There are a lot of YouTubers like this who have a totally transactional relationship with their audience. And anyone could replace them at any time because they're not important. They're not actually a person. They're just like a manifestation of a market demand. So both of these extremes are kind of bad. If you're just making stuff for like other people, first of all, if you're internally motivated at all, like I am, you will burn out. Like you're not going to want to do it. And then second of all, even if you are motivated purely externally, then you're replaceable. Now, on the other hand, if you're completely internally motivated, very likely that you will not find a market for your stuff because you're too deep down whatever dopamine rabbit hole happens to specifically appeal to you. You're telling some intricate story about some fantasy land that people don't care about. And you don't even know people don't care about it because you're too deep. You're too deep in your own thoughts. You're too deep in your own head. Have you had a conversation with another human being about this? Has another human being said, oh, that's cool, let me help you flesh this out? Or is it just you alone in your room for years? A lot of great fantasy novels have been people alone in their room for years. But I would assume at some point they got someone to read their script, you know, and give them feedback. What is the universal truth behind what you're doing? Sometimes you can stumble upon it just internally, but I do think somewhere in the middle, somewhere between those two extremes is probably where you should be. You know, you want to appeal to an audience, you want to make sure that the audience is getting some value from what you're doing, but also, if you're making art that is too much in either direction, it's bad. It's bad. I don't know if there's much to say beyond that. But in the question of like, is this for me or is this for someone else? Is this for me or is this for someone else? Maybe just shut up and make your art. How about that? Idiots. Oh, my microphone.
Night or day, who can say? First sips of coffee, that counts for something. That's gotta be what life is about. Not sipping coffee, but sipping coffee is sort of what life is about. Good afternoon, Stan.
Hey, Marshall, how are you?
I'm glad to be here on the Draftsman podcast, having not seen you for over a month.
I'm glad to be here with you, Marshall, as always. I'm in a new space today. Actually, an old space. This is my studio.
You sure are. I've never seen you in this space before. Is that our Draftsman sign behind you?
It sure is. I felt like coming into the studio to record today.
Wow.
There's nobody here.
Yeah.
It's like the safest place to be right now.
I guess it is. Yeah, it's been abandoned by everyone contaminated.
Yeah, as you can see, these are just Proko sketchbooks that I'm leaning the sign on.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of precarious.
Yeah, that's a whole story.
You got a concrete wall behind you, which in earthquake-prone Southern California territory is probably good and solid. You're safe there. It's just that those sketchbooks are all you're relying on.
The sketchbooks. I have 2,000 of these in the other room.
Wow, and you filled 2,000 sketchbooks?
Oh yeah, I filled all of them, yes.
What's new with you?
What is new with me? Oh. Oh, I know what you're hinting at. Oh, man. Yeah, Melissa's pregnant.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. She announced it actually just a week ago, so some people probably know already, but Yeah, she's actually due really soon. We've kept it a secret for a while.
You kept it a secret from me. I just found out.
I thought I told you. I swear to God, I told my the rest of the crew here probably like 4 months ago.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know.
And I thought I told you at that same time. Oh man.
Well, this is big news. So you've got
It is.
another baby on the way.
Yes, sir.
Very soon.
It's a girl.
A girl.
Yeah. I'm excited.
So you're going to have the spectrum of human experience from childhood on.
I guess so. Boy and girl is the spectrum.
Well, it's I've always understood it as a spectrum. All of this is being re-examined.
It is.
Well, congratulations on this
Yeah.
huge expectation.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and so now, I have between 6 to 10 weeks or so before I have to go on paternity leave, or before I get to relax a little bit from all this work. Yeah, exactly.
Sure, yeah. You'll just be taking it easy, sipping wine.
Stick a little nap. No, but yeah, that means we have to record the rest of the year's podcast in the next 6 to 10 weeks.
How is Melissa doing?
She's doing fine. She's pregnant, Marshall.
Yeah.
She's
know.
going through pregnancy.
I know. How's Cooper
Yeah,
doing?
Cooper's great. Yeah. It sucks that he can't hang out with other kids right now, but
Oh yeah.
he has no idea. So he calls me his best friend,
Uh-huh.
and I feel really good about that. But then at the same time, I'm a little sad.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I want you to have other best friends.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to be your best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
So we aren't going to do podcasts during paternity and maternity leave.
I'm not gonna do anything except relax.
Okay. Well, that means we'll just gang up on doing as many podcasts as we can and cover everything we can. And,
Yeah.
And we'll get them bit at a time.
Yeah, that means we just have to work a little bit hard before I go on vacation.
All right. Well,
So
do you
what
wanna
are we
start
talking
with?
about? Jinx. Kind of. Let's talk about separating the art from the artist.
Why? Was that a question from one of our audience?
It was, actually. Hold on. Give me 1 second. It was a tweet.
I want to hear the question.
Yeah, so my team and I are on Slack all the time, and I forgot who it was, but I think it was John. He put this tweet from one of our followers into the Slack chat, and we just started talking. Everybody had an opinion about it, so I thought, hey, well, this is going to be a great conversation for the podcast. So the tweet comes from Audrey Does Stuff. What do you do when you find people in art with many traits you'd like to learn from, but the people themselves are terrible? Can you really separate the art from the artist?
That is a good question. That is a sincere and an important question, and one that's been around for a long time. It's, what about when bad people make good art? When the person who designed the very best village festivity designs happens to be the most abusive member of the village? What do you do when that discrepancy comes in? And that was in response to the Art Parents episode.
Yeah, because it's related to art parents, because Audrey maybe likes the art of some artist, but then when she researched the history behind the artist, she found a lot of traits about that artist she doesn't like. And so now, does she study this artist? Is it possible to separate the bad qualities and learn from the good qualities? I guess that's the general topic, is like, do the art parents you choose have to be good people?
But there were no specific names mentioned.
No, it's a very open-ended kind of discussion, but it's a pretty specific question, though.
It is. It is, and there are ones that have been coming up even in the last few months.
Oh, there's always artists coming up of all art forms too. Actors, musicians.
Oh, well, right now, yes. There's part of what I would question with this is distant past with a person who is working right now, and it may make no difference. This is a question worth exploring around.
Do you mean that the thing that person did that was bad was in the past and now they've changed? Or do you mean that that person lived a long time ago and now is dead?
Well, now that you mention
Or
it,
both.
now that you mention it, you take one part of that question and you start to split it into another couple of questions.
There's so many questions. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, Marshall.
There is. I'm trying to figure where to start.
Well, I'd like to know your general take on this first. Let's start with the general idea. Do you think, generally, it's possible to separate the art from the artist?
Stan?
The pause. Come on.
I think both. I think that if you don't separate the art from the artist, the more you know and the more you research, the more you'll be left with very little. There comes a point where you have to say, I will still say that I live in this country in spite of what this country has a history of doing. I will still go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, even though it was founded by and made possible by a totally awful person. There comes a point where you could hardly do anything if you didn't make some separation, yet at the same time, we can't always separate the art from the artist because it's too much. It's too close, it's too abhorrent. And so I think anyone would, if they're going to have a discussion, we could end the discussion. Yes, you can. You can separate the art from the artist. Next question. Or, no, you can't. Whatever the artist did, we have to hold him accountable and also project it into the art. I don't think it can be that simple. And so that's why this is something, as you said, would unpack. I have not given this a lot of thought. This is something that I have fewer answers for than I have questions. I've got a number of questions. In fact, of all of the things I think that we've done on this podcast, this is the one where I think that I have the least to offer and the most to learn from.
Really? Interesting. Well, then let's just have a conversation and explore without getting firm on any beliefs, although I probably am pretty firm on my belief on this.
Should we start with you then? Should we start with what you say so we've got something that's strong enough in conviction?
How about this? I'll choose a side,
Okay.
and you prove me wrong. But we won't argue. We will have a friendly discussion, Marshall. You with your argument. Okay. So first of all, I would like to point out that the question was about learning from the artist. It's not about enjoying the artwork of that artist. I think that's a very important distinction here because we're talking about art parents. We're not talking about role models. We're not talking about life role models. And we're not talking about artists that you just enjoy listening to, enjoy watching on TV, enjoy seeing their artwork in a novel that you're reading or whatever. We're talking about learning from them as art parents. It's a very big difference. Huge. For example, I'll bring up Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Right? I'm pretty sure that a lot of musicians in the past several decades have taken Michael Jackson as their art parent. They've studied him. A lot of dancers study him. They learn from him. They get better because they learn his way of doing things. But does that mean they all end up doing the bad things that he did, or that they even kind of learn a little bit of that from them? from him? I don't think so. I think that if you're trying to study an artist, you can separate the bad things that person does in his or her personal life and just simply study their technique or their philosophies on creation or whatever it is that you feel this person is strong in. And you can just focus on that thing.
Okay.
With Michael Jackson, it happens to be the way he dances or the way he sings or the way he, writes melodies or whatever.
Yeah.
Before I move on, do you have anything to say about that?
Yes, you immediately bring up another distinction in here of how we sort through this, and that is what harm does it do to study someone who is reprehensible in one way and admirable in another? What harm does it do? And your response to that is that I don't think that person's going to pick up this celebrity, this artist's bad qualities by studying their technique. But I'm going to keep us on this. I'm going to keep us on this for a few minutes.
Okay.
It could, and here's how it could. Sometimes a person's personal corruption, their individual corruption, comes through their art. And so I think we need to make a distinction between the bad person who creates good art. They may make the most innocuous or even admirable paintings of flowers. They just happen to do really awful things to other people on the side. The paintings of flowers are unlikely to corrupt anybody. But then you have another thing, and that is where the attitude or the moral bearing gets into the work. One of the most famous examples of this in film history is during the silent era, a film by one of the greatest of the silent film directors, D.W. Griffith. He was changing the world of how cinema, story was told in cinema, and he did really marvelous stuff, but he did a film called Birth of a Nation. And that film is inarguably racist. And Spike Lee mentions it in his masterclass, that you can make a film that can encourage people to kill other people because of the content of the film. Well, a person may make art that is to be judged for the content of the art, and that I think, because as I've been trying to think this through in the last 24 hours, that can get muddled. We're not talking about art that is called into question. Movies or stories that we're saying, what a terrible influence this could be on the culture. When The Joker came out, I haven't seen The Joker, but I have students on both sides of the issue that liked the movie and that called the movie a really dangerous thing to put out into this culture.
Interesting.
So that's not about the filmmaker as much as it is about the film. And I think that Audrey's question is not about that. It's about what about when there's these paintings that I love. They're just beautiful patterns and that kind of thing. But when I look into this artist's life, I think you are one of the reasons why the world has been so bad. That's where we're putting the examination onto that. Is that correct?
I think so, but you do bring up a very good point here, that when you're studying someone's technique, you might start to be influenced by their art as well. So there is a danger in studying someone's technique and then not realizing how some of their general ideas on life might be influencing you. It depends really on the situation here. And it depends on the art form, on the medium.
Oh, that's okay. You just brought another thing up. Yes, storytelling versus a painting of flowers, right?
Yes. So one example is